we first signed up for the training, we didn't realize how beneficial it was going to be. But when we got over there and saw how it identified kids, helped you identify kids personally and identify their areas of strength and weakness and how you utilize that to improve their scores, our teams came back and started immediately with their data, their test data, placing kids where they should be and putting them in the response to intervention classes where they should go. And they have continued to do it all year long and made those classes very flexible so kids can move in and out. And they have their data walls, and they're all-time meeting and moving kids on that wall so they can actually see progress as we move throughout the school year.
Good morning and welcome to Middlesboro Middle School. My name is Bill Jones and I'm the principal here. We are here today to talk about how we use the PDAS system and how data has affected our schools and how we combine the data that we collect with several different programs that we got going on, with the data being the driving force in order to track improvement for all students, and so that we too as educators will know where we're at and what we need to do.
Prior to attending the PDAS training in Hazard, the only data that we truly used here at Middlesboro Middle School was the K-Prep data that we received in the fall. We really didn't look at any other data. We would take some advice of some veteran teachers and say, well, I think we need to change this or do this, without really any evidence or data to back those decisions. But after attending the PDAS training, we have came back and we have implemented many different strategies that the teachers use to collect data. For instance, we now compare students' K-Prep scores from the previous year or even as far back as 3 years ago to formative assessments that we're using currently within this school year.
Tony Maxwell, Middlesboro Elementary School. We're with Randy Rose, who's the curriculum coach, and Randy Helston, who is our ARI grant connector. We're going to talk about the how we've worked with PDAS this year and some things that have changed in our building. And this is what started all of this, basically, which got us going a little farther than I think we would have thought about. We did this when we were at the training in Hazard in the fall, September, I think. And we listed all of our students who scored a novice last year. And then we started talking about what their final grades were and where they fell on our STAR assessments and what their attendance was like and who they lived with and if they fell into GAP groups. So we looked at a lot of detail about those students. And we tracked those and we have a note where are they now. And so we've gone back and followed up with where those students are now. And if they've fallen into a red zone, a yellow zone, or a green zone.
Besides comparing this test data, we also wanted to target our GAP kids. I think prior to going to the PDAS training and getting all this data involved in our decision-making process, we didn't really know who our GAP kids were. So we went to our food service people. We got a list of all the kids that were free and reduced lunch. They were marked and identified on all the data sheets. Kids who received special education services were identified so that we could make sure that we went back and visited the IEPs and that they were receiving all the accommodations that they were supposed to receive.
And after we did PDAS, our first meeting back here after that was our October meeting, and we had a data day in the building to where each grade level came in. We didn't have all the cards up. We gave those cards to teachers. So sort of getting the shared leadership involved with that. They wrote the scores. They put their own students on the wall.
As they realize which kids are that need extra help, which kids are where they need to be. It's people who are borderline that we can move with not as much struggle, but also to recognize the lower achieving kids and how much more help they need.
That's why we always remind ourselves, we get hard on each other about it. We've got too many kids here, but yellow is on level. Yellow is okay. Green is super. And red is our main focus, though. We've seen a lot of improvement over the year just by tracking these individual kids like this.
In studying our data, and we look at a kid who is not successful on their test last year, or their projections, the data that's showing where they're projected to be this school year, we started looking at demographics and things to try and find the underlying cause possibly of those low test scores.
I always thought I made really good choices for students based on what the numbers told us, but I've never done this kind of a job for our kids. So it's really made me just a better educator. It makes me feel really guilty on some things I've probably not done for the past 20 years.
We've always tested kids, and even teachers may look at the data, but we have never sat down and looked at the data and said how much we need to move this kid, how many points. And kids don't know where they were and where they need to go. You could say, well, you scored this, but what does that mean? Now they know what that means when they make a certain score. They know where they're at and where they need to go.
What we do currently now is we've created these data notebooks. It is a part of Leader and Me, but many school districts have chosen to do this for many years now. But what we've done with these data notebooks is the STAR scores and the STAR tests and the MAP tests that you hear Mr. Souders referencing, is we sort of house those now, if you will, in these data notebooks. And what that has done is, for years, we've not made the students take ownership or have ownership of their scores. And this notebook has sort of done that for us. It is totally student-driven, and there's qualitative data in there and there's quantitative data. So there's two types of data that these notebooks house, and students see where they are. So they'll see this growth.
And they love, I think, setting that goal and then looking at the end of 6 weeks when they test again and meeting that goal or moving past that goal. So I can see them wanting to continue to do that.
But it's really put names to numbers.
Yes.
Instead of just looking at what the combined scores were for a grade level, it's really let you see where that child is, which has, I think, made all of us look at data differently to see how we can help that one student be more successful. Where the blue lines are kids that are possible candidates for retention, that are concerned for specific reasons. And then we've noted on the cards students who have already repeated a grade somewhere, or their age is inappropriate for them to repeat that grade level. So we really, again, focused on individual students more so than just a grade level.
Every person in the building has adopted a child, and they work with them every week, either on reading or math or both. And those children who are struggling all have an adult that they can work with.
We have a transient population that moves in and out, or families that will show up here that you don't have a real strong history on. And they'll get placed because whatever their last school said about where they should be, and then you'll start looking, well, their age is inappropriate for that grade level. And now you started looking at, it was okay, we've got to remember this by the time they graduate, where do they fall when they're a senior in high school. And so it's not just about this year with them, it's about
their future,
their success. We spent lots of time writing in things that we should have had printed, but again, this was our beginning year, and just getting used to that. And we're going to attach these cards to that card for that student next year, because that way you'll have 2 years of history. You'll know lots about that kid from looking at their card instead of pulling a permanent record. So you'll know more about that child than just that. And then this will also be very helpful when we place students for next school year. We'll know a lot more about that child than what's written on a placement card.
We will continue using PDAS. Hopefully we can even implement it in the high school, but definitely in the elementary and the middle. I think we will continue that training. I don't see us not using it. It's too beneficial.
The PDAS system for us is here to stay. By doing that and collecting the data that we use, we're better able to serve kids and to provide a better education for those kids.